Welcome back, Commanders, to another video, and today we're going to be talking about when you're leveling up your alliance, you're growing stronger, and what are the changes that are going to be needed when transitioning from silver to gold. Now, as many of you may know, I used to be in the lower battlefield of silver, and it genuinely was just due to the fact that we only had around 30 to 35 members, and we was around the 150 to 200 mil power. That being, we was only around 5.5 to almost 6 mil all-time power as an alliance, and therefore we was just in silver 1, and that was the main reason, was just because we had a low member count. Now we have decided to, expand a bit. We now have around 45 to 46 members, and we're also averaging between 200 to 300, just over 300 mil power individually, and therefore as a whole we're actually now around the sort of 10 to 11 billion power, and we're actually sitting now in gold 3, and we're actually kind of on the verge of going to gold 2. So in today's video, guys, I basically want to talk to you guys what's the difference between silver and gold. What I'm going to talk to you about is going to be very similar for myself if we was to go from gold 3 to say gold 2, and especially if we was to go to gold 1. Now, some things you need to consider, guys. A lot of your members in your alliance may have all 5 ground units, especially if you're playing restricted. Now, Silver 1 restricted has got 8.1 units. Now, that's going to be relatively easy to get 5 8.1 units, including air and maybe even close to getting a ship modern. But with that being said, you're going to run into some problems when it comes to then upgrading to Gold League, because Gold 3, which is the lowest Gold League, goes straight to 9.0. Now, as you may know, in Silver 3, it goes 7.2, then it goes up to 8, then it goes to 8.1. Now, once you enter gold, you completely skip on 8.2 and you shoot straight to 9-star. Now, with that, it was almost like double the amount. Okay, so you're going to have to go from 8.1 all the way to 9 on just one unit. And if you do have, that slight bit lower power, anywhere between 100 and 200 mil, even 250 mil, you're going to struggle to get 5 ground force units. So please be aware, that's one thing to consider if you are thinking about taking on more people and going into a higher division, that maybe a lot of your members aren't ready to be able to have 5 ground units at 9-star. I mean, even my own alliance still doesn't have 5 ground star units. So definitely take that into consideration. Of course, like, we 100% aren't ready to upgrade to say gold 2, where we'd have 9.1 units. I'd be able to run, say, 4 9.1 units, I reckon, but even then my 5th unit would basically be non-existent. So it's definitely something you need to think about when it comes to, upgrading your alliance to the next level. Make sure that all of your members are ready. Maybe it's unfortunate that you might have to remove some people or whatever it may be, but think about how you're going to recruit them, because, as I said, it is a big change just in the star units possible. The next thing I want to talk about is play styles and that. Now, normally speaking, yes, you can still be in gold 3. You can upgrade from silver to gold and still only have that 30 to 40 members. So it's not a crazy amount more. But the difference is it's a crazy amount more when it comes to units as well, because what you need to think about is you're not going to have, those 5 9-star units, especially if you only just upgraded from silver to gold. So therefore, you're going to be facing people that maybe have been in gold 3 for a little bit longer, and they're more situated to having their full army group set up. So when it comes to gold, I do feel like a lot more rallies are being used. Definitely in silver, or at least when I was in silver, there wasn't as many rallies. Now, 100% there were rallies, right? But what I'm trying to say is now it's like you're always fighting 3 or 4 full rallies now, especially in restricted. If it was unrestricted, you wouldn't really find that unless it was the big alliances, because of course, like, no one has 5 ground units at 9.2, which is unrestricted, right? So we're referring here purely to restricted, because when you're in restricted, you do have that, leverage to be able to go and make more units, because you don't have to focus them all on one. So with that being said, it's definitely something you need to think about, having your rallies up 24/7. It sounds like a lot, and it is a lot, to be honest with you, but with the fairly new update to the rallies and the fact that you can pass the leadership on to other members, it's always wise to try and keep at least a fast rally of like helicopters, MBs, lights, whatever you may want to use, and just keep a fast rally operating as much as you can. If you can keep it up 24/7, that would be amazing, because then you can always transfer it onto the next person who's getting on. So that's definitely something you need to think about. Is it's a lot more rally playstyle, teamwork playstyle, because in silver, people on average are a little bit lower. Of course, you're going to find some strong people in silver. It is what it is. The matchmaking is not perfect. But with that being said, guys, 100%, I do think you need to think about trying to play it more as a team in gold. You can't just be running off on your own as much as you could when using silver. Now, of course, when you're in gold as well, bases, as we mentioned, are going to be a little bit stronger, and therefore you're really going to need to think about what officers you're using. Now, before, you know, especially in silver, you'll see a lot of the Gen 1, Gen 2 officers, but as you're moving on now to gold, you're mostly going to be seeing all the new gen officers, so you're going to have to keep your officers up to date, especially when it comes to attacking bases. Bases are now becoming very strong with a lot of base HP, and you're going to want to have the best options, and the best options for that, guys, is undoubtedly going to be having Futurus and I. That combo right there is generally going to be your best option when on a howitzer. Of course, in my situation right here, it's on my rocket launcher, but that's just because I've been farming these with my rocket launcher. So ignore the fact that they're on the rocket launcher right now. But 100%, guys, it's going to want to be over on your howitzer, and you're going to be wanting to use the Liberty howitzer for this, of course, because that does the most damage. But having rallies of howitzers and then fast rallies is going to be so important, especially in gold. I mean, it's already important in all battlefields, don't get me wrong, but when you're in gold and, you know, those higher leagues, you definitely need to try and step away from that maybe solo base to basing and start using rallies more often, because genuinely bases HP, because of research, is going to be a lot higher. Now in silver, we never ran into people with, you know, the modern tech, but even now, you know, I'm in gold 3, as I mentioned, and honestly, almost all the enemies are starting to have modern tech, the blue flames as well, and it's becoming increasingly harder to kill bases, especially tanking units. Obviously, we've got a new super heavy officer now, so there's a lot of things that you do need to think about when upgrading from silver to gold, and one of them being to make sure your officers are up to date as possible, because they are genuinely becoming more stronger each time. And if you're still using Gen 1, Gen 2 officers, it really just isn't going to cut it anymore, and you do need to upgrade them, unfortunately. So finally, I kind of wanted to talk about the sort of the levels. I do believe around that sort of 6 to 7 billion is where you'll upgrade from silver 1 into gold 3. It does change a bit, you know, depending on whether, like, you could be, say, 6 billion and have, you know, all your members being around the same sort of power, and therefore, you know, nothing crazy. Or you could be 6 billion where the average person's a little bit lower, but then you have, say, like a 3, 4, 500 mil player. It's going to boost you and you're going to get put into gold. So it's definitely something you need to think about. What is the highest level person you have in your alliance? Are they around the same sort of level to you? I've already spoke about how to manage your matchmaking in a previous video that I done last week, so definitely think about maybe checking that video out. It's definitely going to help you when it comes to matchmaking. But I do want to say, for us, I believe the next cutoff to go into gold 2 is around the 12 billion. So we're actually getting very close to going into gold 2, and, you know, we're just not ready for it. You know, my alliance is not ready for gold 2. It's going to be way too busy. You know, if we had more members, if we had just more players that were in the alliance, maybe it'd be possible. I feel like if you're going into gold 2, you're definitely going to want to be around, on average, all your members are around that 300 mil to maybe 350 mil. To be fair, 45 players at around that sort of 300 to 350 mil would be fine. But of course, we don't have that. You know, most of my members are between 200 and 250. And then obviously some are now working up to that 300 mark. So it's definitely something you've got to think about, guys, when it comes to going into these new areas. And I think that it's good to try those new areas. I remember loving silver at the time because it felt like every enemy I was fighting was around the same sort of power. But now I'm in gold, it's like you do get a spike of these stronger players, and you know, it's definitely still manageable to, you know, beat these stronger players, but it definitely needs more teamwork. As I mentioned at the start, you do need to have those rallies, because soloing these bigger bases, it just is really hard to do on your own. So you know, even if you got 2, 3, 4 of you, it's possible, but having a whole rally definitely makes it a lot easier. One thing to note as well, guys, when you go from silver to gold, I noticed in silver not many people really use air units. I felt like when I was in Silver League, bearing in mind right now I'm 318 mil, I remember being in silver around 250 mil, so it weren't that long ago. Maybe it was a bit less, like 220 mil, but even then at that level, 220 mil, not many people had air units. And genuinely, my fighter at the time, I was actually using Silver Comet with Blade Wing, and honestly, I felt kind of untouchable. You know, I had a maxed out fighter for my grade. It was 8.1. In fact, technically, it was when I was in silver, I was playing unrestricted, so I had a tanking unit and then 1 howitzer and a helicopter at the time. I didn't even really have the setup I have now. It was completely different, and even then, like, I feel like you was only able to have 1 air unit, you know, but now there's so much more air units in gold compared to back then in silver. So that's one thing you definitely need to think about. Is your air ready for the upgrade that you're going to get? Because at the end of the day, guys, air superiority is a thing. If you control the skies, you pretty much control the ground as well, because the way that works is if a bomber and fighters are above you bombing your units, and they have fighters up to protect their bombers, and you don't have fighters, you don't have bombers to sort of hold them back, they're gonna basically dominate you, because they're killing your units before you can even get to their base, right? And they're not even being touched by anyone, because the fact that you don't have anything to support them. So that's definitely something I think you need to think about, is your air units do need to be substantially better in gold compared to when you was in silver. So guys, I hope this video has helped a few people. This is obviously mostly to those that are, you know, not necessarily new to the game, but you know, they're starting to work their way up now and they want to go into those bigger leagues, and just things that they need to think about when entering into these sort of uncharted territories. As always, guys, I appreciate each and every single one of you. The views on the videos lately have been absolutely amazing, and I really appreciate each and every single one of you. If you did enjoy this video or got any information out of it that helped you, please think about hitting that like button, and let's see if we can go for 100 likes on this video. I'd really appreciate it. Hope you're all having an absolutely amazing rest of your week, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care, guys.